Well, now let's take it up to the northern portion of this storm system where we're going to be dealing with those strong, severe storms, especially within the next several hours. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, O'Fallon, Illinois, Arnold, Missouri. There's a lot of locations that are in the path of severe weather for today. And if you're not dealing with it just yet, well, then you will be likely within the next few hours. So again, this is kind of the overall swath of real estate, and it's a large one. So from the northeast all the way down to the southern plains, we've got more than 77 million people at risk to see severe weather today, Britta, and really that number just skyrocketed. It jumped up because of the fact that we're including a lot more folks in the northeast now.
Yes, and we've seen a significant upgrade in some of these areas. So the map does look similar to yesterday in terms of the geography, but very different in terms of the threat level. So now we have two bullseyes that are 3 out of 5, one of which does include a lot of folks that live in the Northeast, Western New York, Western Pennsylvania, Ohio, and also Indiana. As you extend farther into the Midwest and then eventually into the Southern Plains, we have our hot spot that is going to be for large hail and possibly tornadoes in Texas.
Exactly. So there's just numerous locations where we will be impacted in some way or another. It just depends on where you're at and the timing for when these storms are going to arrive. But at least the northern half of this kind of general storm system, it's really encompassing places like, let's say, Syracuse, Buffalo, Erie, Cleveland, all the way down to Louisville. That's kind of that level 3 threat. So this is the enhanced risk. And then you can see that we'll be talking about severe storms in the Appalachian Mountains and even into Michigan. So there's a lot of big metropolitan areas that are under the risk for severe storms today. The storms really are going to be firing up right along and ahead of that cold front. So the cold front, it will be working its way eastward, and out ahead of it, we have really warm temperatures. I mean, temperatures have been above average to kick off the work week, 70s and 80s. So then you couple that with dew points in the 60s. There you have it. And then the front comes through. There's that lifting mechanism. And that's why we have these thunderstorms that will be rather widespread by later on this afternoon.
Excuse me for clearing my throat. I think a lot of you on the East Coast have felt the pollen.
Yes.
And, you know, I guess that's one hidden feature here is that at least this rain will sort of cleanse the atmosphere. But, you know, ahead of this, the winds are going to be very elevated. And that not only brings in the moisture along the front for the severe weather component, but also it brings in windy and dry conditions closer to the Atlantic coast where we actually have a fire danger today.
That's a very good point. And so a lot of areas are going to be dealing with the kind of either direct or indirect impacts from this storm system. But really one takeaway is that I want you to be prepared for large hail, because in a lot of these communities in Ohio, for example, PA, New York, we could be talking about easily large hailstones upwards of 2 inches in diameter. And in portions of the southern plains, yeah, that's pretty common. But in the Ohio River Valley in the Northeast, that's not so common. So just be on alert and understand that it's probably a good idea to be parking your car in your garage or under a carport whenever you're able to, or maybe just in let's say a parking garage, because, you know, you're always trying to find shelter, especially during
you got to
these
work
spring
with
storms.
what you got. I have definitely put my car in a parking garage during a flood threat. So,
Gotta do what you got to do.
Exactly. Find your resources. Let's go ahead, excuse me, and talk about the southern portion of this. Oklahoma City, Dallas, Texarkana, and also Uvalde, Texas, all being represented. We have just a huge stretch here. I mean, Kendall just gave you the breakdown of the northern part of this. The southern part of it also has a bullseye, 3 out of 5 potential here for severe weather. Part of the kicker here for Texas is going to be that potential for very large hail. This is a part of our country that does struggle with that. This is the time of year that we do experience very large hailstones. Now, with that being the main threat, isolated tornadoes cannot be out of the question. I think we'll see fewer reports out of the southern plains for that. But we do have southern winds that are bringing in that moisture. And as you go up above the ground, we do have that increase, the winds coming from the southwest. So a little bit of twist possible there, which can lead to isolated tornadoes.
Exactly. So you need to be prepared for a few tornadoes, but also I think the big concern is for damaging wind. So damaging wind, large hail, those are our primary concerns for us. And this is on top of what we've already seen over the last several days. I mean, look at all of the hail reports that we have seen. There was a 5-inch diameter size hailstone that was measured in Fort Stockton over the weekend. That just was incredible. We had anywhere between about golf balls all the way up to tennis balls. That was really common. And then even the vast majority of the reports coming out of New Mexico, of all places, as well. So it's going to be, again, as we've been joking all month long about how the hail sales and you call it the Dimple Darling sales in Texas. I think there's going to be, unfortunately, a lot of insurance claims that are continuing to have to be filed, and also a lot of vehicles that maybe are discounted because of these massive hailstorms.
It always does interest me how we rate the hailstones. DVD, I guess that kind of dates us right there.
DVD, CD, I know.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think of something else. Okay, you know what? A pin, 5 inches in diameter.
It's a huge hailstone.
That is, yeah, I know it's hard to see, but this is the diameter of what one of these hailstones would be, and it's coming down at an incredible rate of speed.
And the problem is, hailstones that are very large, they tend to be aggregated, so they're actually combined hailstones that are jagged and tooth-like, and so these are really nasty chunks of ice that are flying out of the sky, again, at a very high speed, because they're formed because you're able to force it up into the cloud with very powerful winds. So, of course, what goes up must come down.
Oh, yes. So you also just have to know where your safe place will be. We always talk about your tornado safe place, but also during a hailstorm, especially when we're talking about massive hailstones, it's not a good idea to be near a window. It's not a good idea to be even near an exterior door. You want to be somewhere that is away from all doors and windows, hopefully an interior portion of your home, and maybe even, you know, if you've got a basement, something like that, because a lot of homes, especially in this part of the country, have skylights, and those skylights can just bust as well because of one of those large hailstones.